Hello and welcome to Bangladesh Today. I'm Smita Prakash. Bangladesh has had two women prime ministers, Begum Khaleda Zia and Sheikh Hasina Wajid. Yet, like in other parts of South Asia, merely having women in positions of power has not radically changed the lot of women in the country. They face inequalities and gender-related restrictions like other women in South Asia. Yet, Bangladeshi women are also known to play pivotal roles in families and social groups. To figure out how this works, we have with us Indrani Bagchi, Senior Diplomatic Editor with the Times of India, who has travelled to Bangladesh on many occasions and written extensively on geopolitics of the region. Welcome to the show, Indrani.
Thank you, Smita.
I'd like to begin by asking, that you've been to Bangladesh several times. You've seen that women in Dhaka, at least, they work in the factories, in the garment factories, and even in the outskirts. You see them engaging in social activities much more than probably women in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, and in this region. What is it that is different about women in Bangladesh, their status in life?
Well, women enjoy, while there, as you rightly said, women have restrictions, etc. But women in Bangladesh as well as in West Bengal on our side of the border enjoy a slightly different position within society that gives them, if I may say so, slightly greater power than women in, say, North India or Pakistan. And the reason for this, you could ask religious scholars and they will tell you that it is partly because of the worship of the Shakti cult in Bengal. Bangladesh may have turned Islamic, but they could not take the Bengal out of the Bengalis.
So culturally women
enjoy a slightly more dominant position within the family, within society.
And this is true even of women who may not have access to education, or?
Absolutely. And in fact, if you look at the Bangladesh workforce, the garment industry, which is the largest there, is largely run by, I won't say run by, but it's the workers are all women. Say about 80% are women. The discrimination comes in the fact that the women are the workers. They are not the owners, they are not the line managers, they are not even the floor supervisors. So there you find the difference. A woman is also paid less, which is why you are seeing, even as we speak, the protests in Bangladesh by women garment workers for better pay.
So they are paid less, and in spite of that, they are considered a better employee as compared to male employees. I mean, how does that work?
Because, frankly, and this is true for women in many parts of the world, it is really the woman that takes the burden of family employment, keep the family together, the investments, the savings, the rearing, nurturing of the family. So, and this is especially true in Bangladesh, which is culturally very much part of.
Indrani, despite Bangladesh being an Islamic country, women go to work, they support their families, they support extended families, and the families take pride in that. They don't try to hide the fact, and it's kind of an emancipated outlook towards women, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And as I said, Bangladesh is an Islamic country, but it's not Islamized in the way that that you would find, say, the Taliban, the kind of rule that the Taliban would want to impose on Afghanistan or Pakistan or other parts of the world. It's still a Muslim country, but that doesn't mean that they have lost the cultural moorings that kept them in that place. And therefore, not only are Bangladesh women workers in the workplace, but they are also the bedrock of the very successful cooperative movement. Gramin Bank, for instance, is owned by women. It's the biggest micro-lender in the world, and it's the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. But Gramin Bank is owned by women, as is BRAC, which is the competitor to Gramin. It's these women who bring the money, who create the lending processes, and who obviously have created such a successful model that is being replicated in many parts of the world.
And they, in a sense, become peer educators for the other women who probably may not be as equipped to deal with things like finance and their rights and things like that. Do you feel that the cooperative movement has, to a large extent, empowered the women of Bangladesh?
Oh yes, because you put money in a woman's hand, it doesn't go to alcohol.
Okay.
It goes to rearing of children. It goes to nurturing the family. It goes to creating, squirreling away savings for a rainy day. That's what it goes for. It goes for creating of assets, and that particular trait has been very successfully exploited in Bangladesh among Bangladeshi women. Just to go back a little bit in history as well. Remember, the freedom movement, by and large, started in what was then United Bengal. Freedom movement before the British left, and it was largely populated. I mean, women fought shoulder to shoulder with men. Right. Wasn't the case in many other parts of the country.
Okay. Now that we're talking about politics and women in politics, one saw that even in the Shahbag movement, in that Shahbag Square, there were women out there, even late night, sitting out there with candles, sitting among men. I mean, that's something that you don't see even in India. Even when we saw the Anna movement and when we saw women protesting against rape, once it was 11 and 12 at night, you saw the women going back because they were scared that there'd be men with alcohol who would misbehave. And they went away. But in Shahbag, there were women sitting even late night, sitting overnight. Yes. And for what? I mean, these were women who were born after 1971. They have not experienced that liberation war atrocities. Yet this was, a second generation willing to sit out there and protest and make sure that there is a kind of a closure that this generation gets from that. How do you explain this?
Well, in Bangladesh, if you've seen Bangladesh prime time is not 9 p.m.
Oh.
It's almost midnight.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you do see families out. In fact, one of my best memories of Shahbag was watching this gentleman and lady in Islamic dress. And she was wearing a burqa, but he was holding her hand and they were walking into Shahbag. It was so beautiful. So, yes, they were there all night. But it's part of that culture, the culture of protest, that culture of argument, of sort of fighting for your rights.
It's not an individualistic. I mean, everybody sees it as a communal, as in a positive communal sense that we have to work together towards something, and that includes men and women shoulder to shoulder, and also. Tell me, is this only at the ground level? Can women politicians, at the worker politician, can they hope to rise in party ranks, or is it just these two Begums who are controlling politics?
Well, to an extent you are right. These two Begums do control politics. To the extent when they are comfortable with other women, they come into politics, as you have seen, Deepu Moni, Shahara Khatun, in this government. This government is unique in many ways. Their foreign minister is a woman, their home minister is a woman. But whether they can rise from the worker class, I would be skeptical.
Yeah.
Because all the women in power are women of privilege.
Which is somewhat similar to India, Pakistan, where, I mean, if you were to see anybody, whether Jayalalitha, whether, well, not really Mamta or Mayawati.
Mamta and Mayawati are the only two.
But Benazir, Indira Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, you just pick anybody, and then, the other second, what we're seeing in Parliament today, almost 30%, I think, because of their family connections.
Correct.
Is that the same in Bangladesh, and are they breaking away from that mold?
They will break away from that mold, but they need more time, because I think at the working level, the Bangladeshi woman is still very poorly paid. That may add to the competitive advantage of their industry, but they are not yet at the knowledge level, if you know what I mean. to rise from that, being a garment worker to say being an IT worker.
And then for that, to know about your rights is then to fight about your rights. And you need to know about these things. And if your education hasn't given that to you, then it's peer groups which tell you. Tell me, if we were to go into the education system, there are, you know, hundreds of thousands of youth who are coming out of madrasas. They are also talking about radicalization of Bangladesh. You're seeing the Jamaat, which is fighting back. They want their political right back. They talk about a kind of Islam and an Islamization of Bangladesh, where women will not be allowed to work in the same factory as men, not in the same room. Right now, you know, tailors are sitting together, they're stitching men and women together. That's not going to happen if the Jamaat gets into a political setup, because they're going to change that. Do women realize that in Bangladesh, that this regressive social mental makeup could become part of their political system too?
Probably not in the way that you just described it, but you're right, and it is actually a very big danger, which brings us back to Shahbag in many ways, because Shahbag was about Bangladesh really fighting for its soul. Will it be an Islamized nation, or will it be a Bengali nation? And until now, the Bengali identity is winning. We don't know whether, if BNP comes in with the help of the Jamaat, and if Jamaat exercises a really dominant role in Bangladeshi society, whether this will stay or whether this will go. My guess is it will stay, because women, once having had the taste of sort of economic liberation,
yes.
It's very hard to put the genie back in.
Okay, I understand that. But you know, the Jamaat and the BNP, their line, because they really don't have much of a campaign idea, what they are going about saying is that what Sheikh Hasina has done is it's anti-Islamic, it's secularism to such an extent that it's going to crush the Islamic character of Bangladesh. Now that's something which is like volatile,
very,
you know.
Very.
Yeah.
That's what killed the Shahbag movement.
Yeah. So will it be successful? Will this campaign strategy be successful in the next couple of months? Because that's kind of going to also decide what the political framework of Bangladesh will be.
You know, it's very hard to make a categorical judgment on this, because the dangers are fairly serious and they are proximate. But I still put my faith in those women who, for well over 100 to 200 years, have pulled their weight in society. I mean, if you look at Bangladesh today, its human development indices are far better than India.
India, that's true, yes.
And it's largely because women have been empowered. I can't see how that will change substantially. If it does, if it is imposed, and it will have to be imposed top down, you will see a fairly large social unrest.
Yeah. On that note, thank you very much for joining us, Indrani.
Thank you so much, Smita.